Welcome back to the Forging Alpha podcast, where we talk about fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, and pretty much just what it takes to level up in life, especially if you're a male.
Especially if you're a man.
If you're a male.
You got a set of nuts on you.
And talking about fatherhood. Recently, we've been talking about the Hyrox a lot because we are training for one in November that we're really excited about. That's what we were just rambling on about for the last 10, 20 minutes before we actually started the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's building up some steam. I've got a couple clients that are already committed that are going to come down and meet me there outside
fantastic.
of the office. Even Jason Phillips, I was telling him I'm doing this. He's like, send me the dates on that. I might commit to that, and we might try to get everybody like in my mentorship group.
Oh,
like
that would be awesome.
As a group challenge.
Would they be okay? Well, that's interesting because we had kind of been talking about the difference between doing the open or doing the duos or whatever, or the individual or the duos. Would they be doing individual or duos?
No idea.
Okay.
It's still kind of a concept.
There's
we know that we're going, but we don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Ricky's pretty set on doing this solo dolo.
I am set on doing the individual for sure, but so far I've been impressed with how many people are at least verbally committed to doing the Hyrox. I'm excited for it.
It'll be interesting. Time's going to go by fast. We'll see. I think people will go. Whether they're prepared for it or not, it's going to be a different story. But the nice thing about Hyrox is it's not like going and you're doing the CrossFit Open where, like, if you haven't been doing snatches or power cleans, you're going to be screwed.
Yeah, it's not like the way I see it, it's not really... I'm not worried about anybody that's talked about doing it either being able to finish it. It's more so just like, how fast you finish it, which is cool about the Hyrox in general.
Yeah. We're like Hyrox experts now.
We're pretty much pro Hyrox guys.
So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the nutrition elements today, some of the supplement aspects, maybe some of the
I think we should
recovery modalities.
I think we should talk about renaming the podcast to something that's just straight out to Hyrox.
Yeah, the Forging Hyrox.
The Forging Hyrox. Yeah, nutritionally, I am kind of making some changes nutritionally myself.
Tell me about it.
Mainly just going a meal prep service, Clean Eats, which is local here to Kansas City. They have some franchises and stuff, but I quickly realized, hey, if we haven't gotten a good meal prep solution figured out yet, we're probably not going to take the time to meal prep ourselves once baby's here. So I took your advice and we're going to meal preps some of our dinners and then lunch as well.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to go check that place out too, because and it's smart you're doing this now with the baby, because that's one of the first things I did once we had the baby was I got a month's worth of meal prep. So around that time, not having to worry about that aspect is nice. Very nice.
I just remembered we do also have an empty freezer downstairs. We should probably
I thought you were going to say you remember you're having a baby.
No, I do remember that pretty much.
But that's
every
good,
day.
dude. And honestly, you can maybe meal prep some stuff too and even freeze it. But honestly, if you're going through a meal prep service, but you could, I don't know what you could do. Make up a bunch of steak and protein that you can just take out of the freezer and de-thaw.
Hey, we could do that also.
Yeah.
Nutrition's important though, especially when you are training for something like that.
Performance, yeah, it's important everywhere, and people really underestimate that. But when we start talking about outcome-based things, like people think of nutrition, and this is something I got caught up in when I was first starting my journey, my business is like just focusing on nutrition, but people want outcomes attached to it, right? And so nutrition is a route to multiple outcomes that people want, honestly. And whether it's fat loss, it's probably 80% of that equation. Performance, I don't even know. Like, you can make an argument it's 90% of that equation. If the training is done, the thing that will crush you on competition day, on meet day, will be what you're putting in your body. So much more amplified with that, because you don't have any gas in your car, you ain't gonna just be able to keep driving.
So if I am prepping for a Hyrox, would it be a good time to try a carnivore diet for the first time?
No.
How come?
There are a lot of people in the, let's say, triathlon, Ironman space, which this kind of aligns a little bit more with that. There's still a lot of cardio. People did get away with that, with doing more of a like keto, high fat approach to it, but that's a lot more like steady state cardio, like doing obstacle course races, the Spartan races and stuff. When you add in the anaerobic portion, where there's some strength aspect of that, the preferred fuel source for your body is carbs. And so those people, one, they were just genetically good at it. They had good training, etc. Their bodies started making carbs from fats. Like, you can get your body to do that, but it's inefficient. It's going to take time for you to do that. And you're probably not going to feel great in the process of becoming fat adapted. So you might as well just have carbs in there and use a system that your body prefers in the first place. So no, not the most ideal diet for what we're talking about.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be terrible, right?
Yeah, not great. I mean, I can't imagine your recovery is going to be great. I can't imagine your energy is going to be great. You know, if you're natural, your hormones are going to be terrible because low carbohydrate diet's directly tied with lower testosterone, lower thyroid. So you kind of have a lot of things that are going against you. Your sleep is probably going to get worse. I don't know if you've ever been like lower carb or dieting and your sleep, like you just have a harder time falling or staying asleep during that. That's probably going to happen as well. So yeah, carbs are important. And also, your gut is like anything. You can adapt to things and your body adapts to it. So if you don't tolerate carbs super well now, like, start doing it, because your body will eventually adapt to utilizing carbohydrates more efficiently. And the more you keep pushing on that button, the better it's going to be. But yeah, that's something that I haven't started carb loading for my training, just because I am still in a heavier lifting. The cardiovascular, anaerobic stuff, the high endurance things aren't there as much. But I'm definitely being more cognizant of getting more carbs in. Definitely have been getting more carbs in, but it's going to become more important as we start getting closer to that, as the volume of runs, burpees, sled work starts going up. Very important.
Yeah, especially when we get out there and we're doing some longer workouts.
Yep.
It starts to change pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
The quick 45-minute to hour workouts I'm doing right now, I've been doing fasted, and it's been relatively easy.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that when I get further into the training, I'm going to start to do some type of pre-workout meal.
100%. And so I guess where that is for me is, like, I'm still eating a lot more like fiber dense carbs for the majority of my carbs. So it's a lot of potatoes, it's a lot of sweet potatoes and fruit. There's rice at least like once a day, but like as I get deeper into the training cycles, there's going to be a lot more faster digesting, lower fiber carbs from a performance aspect. So that's where a lot of people, they get this misconstrued about how they should be eating. Like, if you're in a performance sport like Hyrox, you're training for Hyrox, you're doing CrossFit, you're running at high intensities, the way you eat versus the general gym goer that's doing 45-minute lifts, not doing a ton of cardio, is a lot different. You know, the example I like to use is I've helped 5 clients with doing 100-mile races. We're not eating chicken and broccoli and sweet potatoes during that 100-mile race. It is 30 to 50 grams of carbs, typically from sugar-based sources, gels, Gatorade, carbohydrate powders, rice cakes, Rice Krispie treats, every hour for about 24 hours.
Is that like leading up to the race?
No, that's during the race.
Okay.
Then prior to the race, we're doing the traditional carb loading. Rice, pasta meals, sushi meals, high sodium, soy sauce, and sushi. Because the other thing, too, when it comes to this, like, let's fast forward to race day. Those 48 to 72 hours leading up to it are almost just as important as what you do the morning of competition day, because glycogen stores, which are just carbs that you store in your muscles for reserve, you can think about like a fuel tank that you've got on hand when you run out, that takes 48 to 72 hours to digest your food, process, and then get shoved into those muscle stores. So you burn off what's in your bloodstream first and foremost. So let's say you've got some simple carbs that you eat that morning of competition. You burn that off first, but then if you want to tap into those energy reserves after, you know, the first 30 minutes of high intensity training, that is going to be the product of what you did 1, 2, 3 days leading up to that competition. So it gets a lot more amplified with that. So Right now for me, there's a heavier emphasis on protein. I still get about 250 grams of carbs in. My electrolyte and my hydration is definitely something I'm focusing on more. I'm eating 4 meals and a snack, so about 5 times per day right now. It'll start gradually getting up to eating every 3 hours because I'm on week number 2 of 6 days a week, and there's a couple days that I slacked off of getting in enough food and not sleeping as well as I should have, and I felt it. Like it just has a trickle-down effect for the training sessions leading up to that. And there's going to be some overlap, like we talked about last week, where like training adaptations, like you start becoming less sore as your body gets used to training volumes and movements, but also the fueling and the sleep are going to be important for sustaining that amount of training over the next few months. So that's big emphasis on vitamins, minerals for me right now. So I'm doing a lot of fruits, doing my multivitamin every single day, a lot of coconut water. So that's going to be a big focus for me. That's different maybe compared to when I was a college athlete is more so about quantity of food, not necessarily just about like vitamins and minerals. So
a little bit more on the quality over just the quantity side.
It's going to be both.
Yeah.
There's got to be a focus on both. But if you want to have good energy levels, you want to, sleep good, you want to perform well, and you're lacking things like B vitamins, because as you start training more, you also start losing more of those things. There's a bigger need for that. You start sweating more, you start losing more magnesium, you start losing more salt and potassium. So you got to be putting that stuff back.
So don't get all those calories from French fries and ice cream.
No. I mean, you can do it and you'll be able to make it work. And that's where, looking at performance versus performance, like on race day, like it's going to be a lot of sugar and it's going to be a lot of simple carbohydrates to get that in. But, leading up to that, you want to sustain performance, sustain recovery, and give your body the things to adapt and have that. You need to focus on it. Because again, going back to outcomes, like what do you want to accomplish? You want, let's say, like stronger tendons and ligaments and joints. If you're not having enough vitamin C that helps produce collagen, you're not going to have like the raw materials. You can think about like building a house. You don't have enough of those bricks to build stronger structures for that. So that stuff ends up becoming a lot more amplified.
What is your hydration protocol looking like from as far as you mentioned electrolyte drink?
Electrolyte drinks, but I'm getting up to a gallon
okay.
of water per day. That's something I'm typically at about half of a gallon to 3/4 of a gallon. So making sure that I'm doing that, but making sure that I'm getting at least 5 grams of potassium in per day. So coconut water, that's where the fruits are coming in, smoothies, spinach, and I've got a potassium salt. It's like a no sodium salt. We talked about this before, but just sprinkling that on my meals, throwing that into some of my electrolyte drinks. So, I've got a Yeti bottle that I mix in, and I'm typically putting Relight electrolytes in there for each of the bottles. So yeah. So with your pivots with your diet, you mentioned meal prep, but is that more so just getting in the quantity of food that you need to for recovery, or where's your approach kind of going with that beyond just getting more accessibility with meals?
Both the accessibility and just the more an even pacing. So I've been eating relatively intuitively leading up to this. So for the most of this year, I haven't been tracking my meals very well, really at all.
Yeah.
So most of the calories are coming from the evening specifically, and then I'm training in the morning. So it's probably not the end of the world, but I need a lot more of that post-workout.
Yeah. That for you, probably like a carbohydrate supplement powder. Probably good to have
that is a good
at
idea.
some point. Yeah. Just getting that in something. If you're going to be drinking water, sipping on something in the mornings, just getting something like that. So there's a few CrossFit people that I work with, and one thing that's been a game changer for them is a supplement. It's called Leg Day by a company called NutriBio.
Okay. I feel like I've tried this. You had this one time and I tried it.
Yeah. And that's got carbohydrates in there. It's got a couple carbohydrates, but then it's got your amino acids in there. It's got some electrolytes. It's kind of all in one thing. So like that's going to be my game day supplement that we'll be taking for sure. But I'm kind of nerding out with this stuff. I'm going to be implementing different things in there. Going to be messing around with some like ketones, like those ketone IQs, those little drinkable bottles.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what's one of the things you're most excited to try, or one of the, maybe not that you're expecting the biggest outcome, but that you're most excited about?
I don't know. I started doing NAD plus injections. And what I'm excited to see is how much of an impact from a cardio standpoint, things from a cellular health impact. So methylene blue, I'm going to start putting that in on some of my longer cardio days. Just seeing how that helps with like oxygen and endurance. Because outside of just like people use it for like cognition and for immune health, methylene blue, but it's providing more oxygen to your cells. So like I noticed it when I did that pre-workout lifting wise, like I was able to do more sets and more reps easier. So I'm curious to see how that's going to help on cardio days. So implementing that and going away from kind of the traditional just caffeine and just stimulants, like being able to get some actual endurance things. So playing around with those things. So that there's a supplement we talked about called Peak O2, which is like cordyceps mushrooms, which is supposed to help with oxygen utilization. So just implementing things that are going to help with endurance, and not necessarily like trying to lean on that, but trying to milk out more of those things from my training. And there's some things that there's some like Soviet peptides, I guess you would call them, bioregulators that most of the UFC guys use in camp for helping with like the workload of doing multiple bouts of sparring and wrestling. There's one called meldonium that helps switch your body system from utilizing fatty acids to pure carbohydrate metabolism, which like if you do that and then you carb load and you're using those glycogen stores way more efficiently.
Men's game on, man.
Yeah. Apparently like just efficiency with those goes through the roof. So
wow.
That might be going into the training protocol as well. But yeah, so some of the things more from like a cellular endurance standpoint. Curious to try. What about you?
I'm most excited about what changing my breathing during the runs is going to affect, because I used to have a pretty good cardio base.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to come back relatively quick.
Yep.
I think genetically I'm pretty apt to just have a higher, I don't know if it's higher lung capacity or VO2 max or what.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to actually be pushing myself in that regard, because I haven't pushed myself in training very hard since powerlifting, and I kind of miss that. So that's the part that I'm most excited about.
Yeah. I'm curious to see too, like I'm going to run some bouts of BPC 157 and some growth hormone peptides like ipamorelin leading into this. From a joint perspective, I'm curious to see if I can keep myself really well recovered from a joint perspective and just be able to sustain 6 days a week smartly and build that base up, but maybe not have it suck as much.
Well, yeah, like you're still doing it either way, but maybe you don't have to push quite as hard mentally. Like maybe it's not as you don't wake up so achy in the mornings. Like maybe you wake up feeling good.
Yeah,
you don't have to go through quite so much pain during it.
100%. And that's from the standpoint of it's just kind of put me back in athlete mode. So like you talk to anybody that I played with, like I used to be obsessed with that stuff, like the supplementation protocols, the food, the sleep, because I had a bigger reason for doing that, like something on the calendar I knew was coming up. So it made this process more enjoyable, like more top of mind with just locking everything in with my meals and stuff, things that maybe now with getting busy, I would kind of skip over because I'm trying to grab and go lunch and right back to work. Where I'm taking more of the time to, all right, let's make an extra smoothie to get that in, because I know how good I feel after that, to just be firing on all cylinders. So I'm curious using some of those things, especially from a supplement and a diet standpoint, to help me stay where I'm at from like a business productivity standpoint, but also have a high level of training threshold and not have that just take away all my energy for the rest of the day in life for when I actually need it. So
Yeah, you don't want to just go, hey, I'm crushing it training for this Hyrox, but now everything else in life is suffering
100%.
because you don't have the bandwidth for it. And that's probably what a lot of people, what it ends up happening to them. But if you're smart about it and you just plan ahead and you're proactive with what you're doing nutritionally, it doesn't take that much more effort or time. It just takes planning ahead.
It does. And so like one way that I'm doing that is just like fruit and vegetable intake, just getting frozen stuff and not have like, throw it in the microwave, do a steamer bag of carrots and sweet potatoes, blending up blueberries and having that in there, but still convenient, like not going all the way out of my way to make 5-course meals, but just getting in the variety that I need, eating more fish throughout the week for the omega-3s, and staying on top of protein consumption too right now. So yeah, my protein is probably higher right now than it will be in the coming months. I got vacation coming up, so like training more hypertrophy base is more top of mind. We're starting to implement more runs, more cardiovascular work, but then after that, it's slowly going to be implementing in more circuit-based work, VO2 max. But it's been humbling up to this point with hitting cardio and circuit work days.
Are you going to be doing any runs on the beach when you're in Jamaica?
Runs on the beach. I don't know how much of a beach they'll have in terms of running. We'll see how much they've got there. I'm excited to go and like have a plan though, and do cardio in the mornings there. I'm feeling good doing the cardio. Like I just feel better with cardio.
Somewhere along the way, I totally forgot how good I feel after that. I think we got so much natural cardio from like a sports practice where in my head, I didn't visualize it as cardio. Yeah. Like, it's not like we're just hopping on a treadmill for an hour. And typically up to this point, like unless I was training for a bodybuilding competition or even then, it's not like I was doing hours of cardio.
You're not doing high intensity stuff, I'd imagine.
No, definitely not. But even like just going out for a light run, you feel great afterwards.
100%. And even like yesterday, so we went over kind of how my training split is set up right now. Thursdays end up being like my active recovery days. And even yesterday, like I was just more cognizant of every single call I was on, I was moving because, I had an hour walk that was programmed in. I didn't necessarily have the time to do that all at once. So I was walking on all my calls and I ended up getting 15,000 steps yesterday. And so like that necessarily wouldn't have been top of mind. I usually walk during calls, but some of the calls I might be sitting down. If I get to that 10,000 mark, I'm good. But like knowing that yesterday was my active recovery day, I hit the sauna twice yesterday. I got in walks on every single call. I did some of my mobility stuff. So even on my off days, it's also more top of mind where maybe I wouldn't be doing that as much. So,
yeah, I like taking anytime that I can. I like taking calls while I'm walking or if we can like walk and talk. But I also feel like for me, I just think better and communicate better while I'm walking.
100%.
So it's kind of like a win-win. And that's a really easy way that you can just enjoy your day more and get movement in so you're feeling better and you're getting your steps in.
Yeah, and that's something where this is going to be a fun process for me of really lifestyle design as well, because I feel like people are so wrapped into this idea of your training, your job, your life all have to look a certain way versus trying to build those things around your life. So, like I don't have to be face-to-face at a desk on Zoom if I don't want to be. So if I can be on calls where I'm walking and like you mentioned, I'm there. The funny thing is too, like when I'm on Zoom and there's maybe like notifications popping up on my laptop or there's text, it's easy to kind of get distracted and not be fully present on those Zoom calls. When somebody's just in my pocket and I'm walking, like I am fully present in that conversation.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. It works in reverse of what most people would think of, like, I need to see you on video on a Zoom call.
I think my thing is if I'm actually moving, it's like my mind has this base level of activity and it doesn't get distracted as much. If I'm just sitting and listening on a Zoom call and I'm just like staring at a screen, that can be tough to stay engaged.
It can be. Yes. Agreed. So, how I'm kind of structuring my diet in a day of eating right now. Morning time is still a little bit lower carbohydrate. So emphasis on protein. So I'm usually doing eggs and yogurt, or eggs and like I did sardines this morning with fruit. So fruit's my main carbohydrate source, unless I had a heavy leg day. And lunch, implementing in more carbohydrates. So that's usually going to be my rice meal, or sometimes it's my sweet potatoes. We're doing a shake mid-morning. We're doing a shake mid-afternoon. And then we've got dinner time. And then there's usually some type of protein right before bed as well. But emphasizing a vegetable or a fruit at every single meal. And then emphasizing hydration as well. But then being more cognizant of, like on higher volume days, like getting in carbohydrates. Yesterday I went to Retail Rebel.
Yep.
So I need to go get some more magnesium, but then I picked up a mass gainer supplement. Reason being is like it already had carbohydrates in there with the protein. So like that's becoming my pre-workout. Like this morning I woke up and it was just easy. Like usually I'll do rice pudding with a protein source before. But this morning I did banana, Fairlife milk, and then the full dosage of that. And it's oatmeal powder with whey protein. So it's just like, it's a carbohydrate powder that's just built in there. Got me my fiber in, complex carbohydrates. And that's a switch that I'm making for like my pre-workout or post-workout.
Yeah, I think I got stuck in the with the bodybuilding side of what I was doing. I think I got stuck with not pushing myself as far from a performance standpoint in my workouts. So I think I've gotten a little bit complacent from a nutrition side. So I'm excited to dial it back in, because it's such a huge part of what you're doing in all of fitness, or whether it's to look better or perform better. It all kind of stems from nutrition.
100%.
And mine's been pretty haphazard as of lately.
Yeah. And I think that like building blocks right now, like getting in what you need in a given day.
Yeah.
Micronutrition, macronutrition, however that looks is probably the most important thing. For me, as we start getting into the months, the more granular things are going to be more important. So a carbohydrate supplement during my training sessions, like more so like timing of those foods to help with that performance and help with recovery. That's something I will start focusing on more. Like that's not as big of a focus right now. Like I'm not hopping out of my workout and going straight to like my recovery meal all the time. Sometimes, I'll give it 30 minutes to an hour. But I think once you establish a good base, you can start getting fancier with those things, with like, your pre-workout stuff, your intra-workout stuff, your post-workout stuff. If you end up having to do 2-a-days, and at some point of this, like that definitely becomes more important as well, because you're going to die if you're not timing your recovery very well.
I'm for sure going to be doing 2-a-days. I'm so excited for that.
Are you?
Yeah, I think that what I'm excited about really is just like the convenience of having a home gym, man. Like it's so easy to do 2-a-days if you have a home gym. And just what I mean by that isn't necessarily like doing way more workload, but if you have what would be a longer morning workout, splitting that into 2 because you don't have to factor in twice the drive time with the 2 workouts, that's nice.
Especially from like an intensity standpoint.
Yes.
I feel like 2-a-days can be a good thing if you can, hit something hard, get a few more meals in, get some rest in, and then you're able to hit that other aspect just as hard later on, because the first few movements that you do in a workout are always going to be way more productive than the last couple. So if you're trying to really emphasize something and have the most productivity with those things, getting a little bit of recovery in and hitting those things later on. And, I'm assuming you're probably talking like there's going to be some type of lifting session, then cardio.
Yeah, it'll probably be separate like that.
Yeah. Yep. At some point that's probably going to have to happen. I think like middle phase where trying to get like super compensation, like really just build up like a surplus so that when race day comes, it's easier. Because that's my whole thing is I want to make the training hard enough that when it comes to race day, like it's just on auto mode. Like it's easy when we get to there because the training has been intense enough for long enough with enough volume that you're ready to go.
What do you think, if you had to take a guess, what your weekly, I just got distracted by somebody out there that was actually an employee, but I thought it was one of our clients. What do you think your weekly running volume will be at the peak?
Weekly running volume at the peak.
Right now, I would say I'm generally doing either I've been talking kilometers lately, a 1 kilometer warm up or cool down or both.
Yep.
So on average right now, I would say I'm only between I'm probably about 8 to 10 kilometers a week right now.
Yeah.
Which is not very much, but infinitely more than I was doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not just about the running portion of it, but that is a big chunk of it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be running 10, 20 kilometers a week, 30, 40, 50?
I'm going to speak in miles. So how I'm probably going to set it up, I don't think I'm ever going to use endurance for the running.
Mm-hmm.
Like the running volume for me, just because of my hip issues and my quad not being attached, I'm probably not going to be going on 10 mile, 15 mile runs all at once. I will probably be using running more for getting used to that, doing, I would say probably working up to 5 mile runs.
Yeah.
Is where I'll get to, but then using the circuit work of combining a shorter duration run with supersetting, honestly, versus trying to work up to I'm doing, a 20 mile run all at once. I don't think I'm going to get to that, the long distance aspect all at once. I think that the next phase is going to be increasing how many times per week I run, so that I'm building that up in a little more specificity in there, and then start playing around with sprint work, and then just keep building up the aerobic system with the rowing, the biking, starting to implement more the ski erg stuff and sled work. Honestly, I think I'll probably get longer duration stuff from lighter midweight sled work, going out and pulling a sled at a decent pace, almost like power walking, for 30 to 45 minutes, and building that up there, versus trying to go out and just run. Because if I can build up my lungs and I've implemented enough runs in there that I'm going to be able to do it and my knees aren't bad, I think come race day, I'm going to be in a good position. So the running for me is not going to be necessarily the driver of my endurance work. I think it's going to have to be in there, and get to a point where I'll probably run in 4 days a week, but I don't think I'll ever get over that 10 mile marker at once.
I don't think I will either.
Yeah.
No, I don't see that.
I think that, and I'm going to test it. So I think that within the next 3 months, doing a third of a Hyrox, doing a half a Hyrox, and then probably 2 months out or a month out. Probably the month out, I'll probably do a full Hyrox just as a testing point to see really where I'm at and assess where I need to go from there. But yeah, that's where I think people get it misconstrued about you don't just have to run to get the running to where you want it to be. It's got to be there. And if you don't run, you're going to struggle. But just going out and running 20 miles a day isn't all of what you need to do.
No, definitely not. The thing that I'm trying to get the hang of is, especially, I guess you could have a watch or something like that, but getting a feel for what the pace feels like. What I haven't done yet is many timed runs.
Yeah.
So I could just be running slow as shit right now.
Yeah.
And that's why
I think doing the supersets of strongman complexes with implementing in those runs is going to be good, because it's not just going to be running around a track. Because you can be doing all of that, but where's your heart rate at? Where's your lactate threshold after you've just gone and done lunges the length of a football field? And then you got to do a half mile run, and then you got to do more of that. So probably training in that fashion to build up the base is where I'm going to be. But in terms of weekly volume, I don't know yet. I haven't gotten there. I'm kind of programming month by month. So I'll kind of assess where I'm at the end of month 1 and go from there. But I think probably 20 miles over the course of a week is probably the pinnacle of where I'd ever get to overall. Yeah.
I'm starting to realize I have never studied much into endurance workload or anything like that.
Yeah.
I've always been a strength and speed guy. Haven't been much for the endurance side.
Well, it's interesting because it's like a different type of endurance because you're not doing like an Ironman where it's like just purely one thing for 2 hours, then you're going to the next thing for 2 hours. Like you almost have to be able to switch gears, be able to pace your runs out, at a time that's decent enough that you're not completely smoking yourself for the first 1 or 2 runs. But also, you're not going so slow that you're not finishing in the time you want to. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what's kind of fun about it is it's a little bit of a game of balance between all of the elements.
Yeah, and I ended up on the page of the female world champion, Hyrox lady, and she structures it with still a lot of strength training in there. I mean, she's doing deadlifts with 315 pounds, 5x5, with like her other cardio and run days also throughout the week. So there's a big strength component with the people that do it smartly as well. They're not just out there just doing mini Hyrox all day long. So yeah. The running part will be interesting. It'll be interesting. It's what do you think is going to be the toughest challenge for you? You think it'll be the running between all of those, like just accumulation, or is there one thing that's going to be tougher in your mind than others?
So I have been trying to think through the obstacles because I haven't done them all yet.
Yeah.
That's why I really want to get that first little bit of whether it's a full one or a half or whatever, it's some type of simulation, just so I have a ballpark idea of what to expect. I thought it was going to be the burpee broad jumps.
Yep.
But I did give those a shot to some degree in our office the other day, and they felt really good. They moved really well. Obviously, that was like legs were 100% fresh. No running before or anything like that, so no lactic acid. So a little bit of a different story, but they felt good.
Pull up the sequence of it real quick.
I'm sort of leaning towards the sled pull, only because of the technique to it. Where I don't know if you've looked into that, but there's like a box that you have. I think it's like a 6-foot box that you can work between. So it's like a little bit of you're taking some steps and pulling type situation.
Really?
And you're like moving the rope out of the way. Like it's kind of a technical side thing. I'll get it pulled up real quick. Hyrox events. We're pretty much Hyrox pros. You'd think we would know this by now.
You would think so. You would think so.
Hyrox events. Ski erg, sled push, sled pull, burpee broad jumps, rowing, farmer's carry, sandbag lunges, and wall balls.
Yeah. I think by the time we get to lunges, I think that's going to sneak up.
I can see that.
I think the legs by that point of all the running and then the lunging down there, I could see that adding up. And then you got 100 squats right after with the wall ball.
Yeah, and obviously that's going to suck, right?
Yeah. Especially like hitting depth. I think they're becoming more stringent on like you're going to have to get a crease in your hips and do that.
You're going to have to get down. Are you going to go with more of a little bit of a sumo squat situation with that?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No. I don't think like depth-wise I'd be able to get deep enough for that. Yeah. I'll probably go, I'm not going to be extremely narrow. Like I'm not going to do a cannonball squat stance. But I will probably go wide enough to where I can still get depth, but also not narrow to the point where it's just my quads also. So, and I'm having to go further than I need to go also because you don't want to also just be doing butt to grass squats just for the sake of it.
Hey, it'll look good on the video, though.
It would look good on the video.
What we don't want is the people to be critiquing your squat depth.
No, I saw a video of that the other day. A guy did 60 no reps on wall balls.
That's a lot of no reps.
Yeah. So, yeah, from a kind of rounding out the dietary stuff. From a supplement standpoint, I think the biggest things I'm going to be implementing are like mushroom blends, like cordyceps mushrooms, methylene blue. There might be one. It's a mitochondrial enhancer called MOTC that produces more mitochondria in your cells. That might get thrown into the mix there at some point. Carbohydrate supplements around workout time periods. Electrolytes are going to be a big deal. And Caffeine.
Caffeine, baby.
Enough caffeine, but not too much. Yeah.
What's the sweet spot?
I don't know. On race day, I'll probably push it.
Yeah.
They've done studies up to 1,000 migs. Being like improving endurance at that level. I don't think I'd want to take any other stimulants. Like I'm not going to take a pre-workout that's got any other like weird things in there. But I'd say probably on race day, 500 migs is probably what I'll do.
Oh wow. My first thought in my head goes to, I think a lot of the challenge is going to be the heart rate regulation. So if you add a ton of stimulants on top of that, is it going to be counterproductive, or there's a trade-off there at some point, of course?
That is something we'll find out.
We'll find out, man.
Test it, dude. We're going to test it. Like even on like 300-400 milligrams of caffeine. And again, I haven't done it after a bunch of cardio work.
Yeah.
But, a lot more like leg days and volume. My heart rate doesn't go crazy through the roof because of caffeine. So we'll see, though.
We've been building up our tolerance to caffeine for years. We're built for this.
Something like yohimbine, the thing that gives you like the cold sweats, probably not the best thing to have there. Like that might not be a good.
We were talking about Olympus Labs the other day. If I can find some rain on eBay, that stuff was pretty intense. Maybe we take that beforehand.
Yeah, do that. Snort some Adderall.
Well, I think we just do a little bit of all of it.
The Drug Olympics.
So this will be fun though, because you're coming from a point where you have a really good foundation right now nutritionally of where you're at going into the race prep, and you're kind of finalizing like that top from 90% to 100 sort of.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of coming from I eat well intuitively because I've been in it forever.
Yep.
But I've been pretty haphazard the last few years. So getting that dialed in, more of the basic side of it, it'll be cool to get both takes as we
100%
progress through all this.
Yeah. Do some, spend a week and like track on Chronometer on that app.
I downloaded it. I tracked a meal and then I fell off, man. And I used to be the first one to always preach it from the rooftops that like, if you really actually care about getting in better shape, track your food.
And more so too from like that vitamin and mineral standpoint.
100%.
Because that's what I like about it, is you'll be able to see on there some areas where, you can maybe improve your performance during cardio or the recovery aspect. So that's a good place to do it. We'll do it together.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll hold each other accountable.
We'll have to, I love it. We'll have to check in on the next podcast on how we're doing nutritionally.
There we go.
And yeah, who cares what the numbers are? I just need to get the stuff in there right now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to matter a lot more come fall time.
100%. And even like I mentioned, like week 2, like week 1, fired up, 6 days, easy, no money. Like get into week 2, it's like there's a little more friction there. And I know that stuff starts becoming more amplified recovery-wise, performance-wise, staying on top of that. Or I'm just going to get to week 4, 5, 6, and it's going to be like, and then if you don't do what you need to do, you're going to probably die.
And that's not good.
No. Yeah, because again, I want to make this training the intense part so that there's zero worries or issues when it comes to race day. Be coming prepared enough, and it's just a breeze.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think that's about all we got for today.
I think it's a wrap. Catch you on the next one.
We'll see you later.
Peace.